I always forget the word. So, Robbie, tell us a little bit about what challenges you're seeing out there from both, right? Can you give it the perspective on from the candidate side as well as the organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Lynette and Larissa touched upon, it's definitely a job seekers market right now. They have all to say. We're seeing a lot of, from the employer side, a lot of issues that they might be facing is no-show rates, people who say they will attend for interviews and don't show for interviews, people who have actually received the job offer in their hand, signed, and are ready to be onboarded will not show for their first day of work. Whether that's because they received a better job opportunity literally the night before, the day of, I mean, who's to say? And then you'd have the third category, which they show up to their first day of work and then they're gone by lunchtime. So we're seeing all of the above. As far as job seekers are concerned, it's 2022. They're not going to be responsive if your job order doesn't have the wage on it. They're not going to be responsive if they don't know the career trajectory. They expect transparency at this point in the game. And I think the generational differences that you're seeing in the labor market, a lot of employers just haven't been able to keep up with and stay ahead of. So that's probably hurting them in the long run.
Okay. What do you think, Ryan, I'm going to stay with you on this one. What do you think a candidate can do out there just to be a little bit better for the recruiters?
I think follow-up is key. Don't just ghost us. If you have a better job opportunity, it's to your benefit to let your recruiter know that you have something else in the works. Maybe your recruiter can work something out and leverage your other opportunity. But that open communication has to be there. I mean, you have to trust us to do our job and get you the best offer. At the end of the day, our hands are tied to a certain extent, but we do have some negotiation power sometimes on certain jobs. But you have to communicate with us and let us know what that is. Otherwise, if we don't know, we can't help you. And that's really our biggest concern and pet peeve a lot of the times is we just never hear back from our candidate when we could have done more, maybe.
100% agree.
All right.
We agree too, Steve. I thought that
Go ahead, Lynette. Did you have something else to say on that?
No, I think Larissa chimed in and said 100%, and we were giving you the thumbs up on that as well.
Yeah.
All right.
When we do know that our candidates have other things in the process, and I think Lynette and Robbie, and even Lynette, your colleague there. I'm sorry I missed his name, but I can guarantee we all have gotten down to the point of giving an offer, and then suddenly it's like, well, I do have another offer that is there, and it's like, no. And then they decide they're going to go there, or they just ghost us or whatever. And we're able to, now what I'm able to do is leverage that up front and saying, look, this is the employees market. You have to understand that they are actively interviewing. They're actively getting people at them. And so if you want to have this person, you have to be competitive because they have options. And, even with multiple clients, I'm able to present somebody to multiple clients and saying, they're getting interviewed here, they're getting interviewed here, they're getting interviewed here. What are you going to do? So we've gotten, even somebody with 1 year of experience in tax, in a tax accounting, that ended up getting a $10,000 increase on her pay from another offer that was actually a $17,000 increase from what she currently had, plus a $5,000 bonus because of trying to be competitive. But our candidates have to tell us what's happening. Otherwise, we can't do it.
Okay, we can end the webinar, right? There's a lot of good information right there. Thank you. We're going to talk about ghosting here in a second from the opposite side of it, but Latrice, I want to welcome you to being a panelist here. Latrice, can you give us a quick little 30 seconds who you are and what you do?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am the HR specialist and I do recruiting for Digital Resource. We are a digital marketing agency here in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I'm primarily an HR specialist, so most things HR, but my job has transformed tremendously in the last 2 years to be completely recruiting focused. It's a tough world we are in right now as far as recruiting the right applicants, getting the right attention to our business. So that's just a little bit of the challenges that I have been dealing with recently.
Okay, perfect. Well, we're gonna get to find out a little bit more. Ghosting. Right. Today I saw a poll on LinkedIn and it said it was, or I'm sorry, it was a survey, right? It said something about ghosting. Is it better to give zero information or ghost the candidates? We hear a lot about that from ghosting candidates. I mean, this is a softball I'm going to throw out there, but Lynette, let's take this. Candidate doesn't fit, not a good thing. How do you handle that situation?
I always believe honesty is the best policy, just being upfront with someone. If they're not a good fit, we can explore other employment opportunities for them and to fit their needs, and just being very real with them. If they're looking to pursue a position that maybe they're underqualified for, giving them resources and opportunities so that they can skill up and make those changes so that they become more attractive. And I think that's part of our job too, is helping people along the way, because ultimately, next week they could be a great candidate for something else. And so just really helping people all the way around is important.
Absolutely. And you said, Larissa, we're going to get back now, the Great Resignation, right? We're going to talk about that because that is something, it's in the media, and we all know how much I love the media, with everything that's going on out there, but the Great Resignation, it's there. Talk to us a little bit more. I know you talked just a little bit, but why do you think candidates are leaving more than they ever have before?
Personally, with the different discussions that I've had with some of the management and directors and partners of different companies, really honestly, Lynette actually touched on that, is trying to go in a new direction, find out who they are. If they've not been happy, they know they have options now. And that's really where it comes down to. Being in this employee's market, it's no longer being at the employer's decisions on what they're going to do to a certain degree. So having that flexibility and having that control in their own lives, where they're personally, when we're doing our recruiting, we like to make sure that their personal goals and their professional goals are aligned so that the person is going to stay longer with the company that we place them at. And I think that a lot of people are finding out that their personal goals were not being aligned with their professional goals. And so they're like, now's the time. I gotta figure out how I can do this. Now is my opportunity to go and seek more education or see what else is out there. Maybe I'm going to just completely take a turn, and maybe I'm going to start a business for myself now. There's a lot of different reasons that we're seeing going out there.
All right, perfect. Anybody else want to touch on that topic? Robbie?
Yeah, Steve, sure, thanks. Just from the generational perspective side of it, that's my shtick. So you're noticing a big change from generations before, boomers and maybe Generation X even, who had loyalty to their employers for a reason. And so millennials and Gen Z, they don't see it that way. So as you mentioned, they're leaving their jobs. And it's because of that loyalty. So you can tie in the ghosting, you can tie into the fact that the employers never let us know, they ghosted us. So now we're going to ghost them, and it's reciprocal. And so Gen Z in particular, they're very vocal about it. They're that short attention span generation, right? Instant gratification. They need immediate feedback. And so if they're not going to get that, they have thousands of other opportunities to go to, and that's what they'll do.
Perfect. The question that I got asked the other day for this podcast was, in your opinion, what is driving the Great Resignation? And this was kind of what I said was, people want options. With the ability to work from home, people can live wherever they want. Right? They don't have to live in cold states anymore, like Wisconsin, where I'm from originally, right? They can move down here to sunny South Florida. But companies, they need talent. They're opening up different benefits packages. They're opening up their wallets. They're promoting the work-life balance, which is really big. And I really feel that COVID showed the people, right? And you guys just touched on that, right? That there are options out there. A happy employee 2 years ago wasn't taking phone calls, wasn't taking email addresses. Now they're taking it. How many great, how many people that were phenomenal at what they did lost their jobs because of COVID? And it showed the companies didn't care as much. Now, there were some great companies out there that kept everybody on, kept paying them, kept doing everything. but they said, hey, we're going to put you on furlough, and then they're just going to have to get out there and wait. But what happened is these people said, there's a lot of other options, right? And again, right, I talk about South Florida, people are moving down here in droves from all over. Our housing market has gone crazy because it's, what's going on, right? I saw a post today that said the average house in Miami is like $589,000 now, or $489,000, with the average salary of $43,000. How can you afford that? I don't understand, right, where that's going to go, right? Eventually it's going to go. So, Latrice, with you being, a private company out there, what have you seen, right? You guys are one of the fastest, growing companies. You always make the, the award ceremonies as, fastest growing companies out there. What have you seen from an individual company for people leaving or why they're coming in, why they're leaving to come to organizations like yours?
The main thing that we've been noticing is that people want a full career. They want development, and they also want the connection that they get, right? So they want to be able to matriculate through their career. They want to have a company that supports them professionally and personally, where they could build a network of people and not just professional, but friends. And those are the things that we've been able to provide. And that's kind of been a strong selling point of ours, really focusing on the training and the development of what you'll get. We're going to help you build your career while we're building our company as well. So that's probably one of the main things that the reasons why a lot of people choose Digital Resource recently.
And you got a fun office to come to. You got a great that too. I hear you guys have the second best office space in South Florida. I hear there's another company out there that built a beautiful gym for all of their team members and stuff like that. So, built a great place that people want to come. So
trying to get to that first spot.
We're gonna get there, right? It's close.
So we're gonna get there.
It's there. Robbie, from a workforce development, with all the people that are out there, and I think they all, right, everybody struggles on the same thing. What do you feel? And yes, I know you guys have recruited some great people for me, so I know you a little bit more than I know a lot of the other workforce, but what do you think that you do on a daily basis that makes you so successful to be able to make your clients so happy?
For me personally, it's follow-up. I know I'm fortunate enough to where I have a team of about 10 of us where we can split that workload, and that allows me the time to follow up. A lot of recruiters might not have that. They're juggling hundreds of candidates per day. But for me, I always like to touch back on someone I had a last conversation with maybe a month or 2 months ago, to the point where I'm like, hey, we were talking about this job, whatever happened. And so that really lets them know that, okay, I'm going to continue the conversation. I'm going to continue helping them until I close the file. You have a job. Congratulations. I can now move forward. So for me personally, I just say follow up, follow up, follow up.
Okay. All right. So we've talked a lot about the recruiting side, right? Trying to bring talent in, a little bit about why talent are leaving. Let's talk about the culture and morale. What do you think, right? Larissa, I'm going to throw this to you first right? What are some things that you can do as an organization or that organizations can do to really make the morale better, to make the culture better out there in the workplace?
Well, like some of the companies that I work with, they've actually had these kind of panel conversations and tried to really dive deep into that. And we've really tried to even focus in on trying to do that with even our own company. Is the companies are trying to make sure that there is more of that work-life balance that you're talking about. That is something that is huge. Trying to let them know that, yeah, we want you to work when you're supposed to be working, but we don't want it to be 100% of the time. A lot of the companies, and one in particular that we work with, they had actually looked at even how much PTO they're allowing people to bank. And they have found out that there is a specific disconnection with the employee and their job duties when they're banking more than 90 hours of PTO at any given time. So even pushing on that they do not want you to be banking that many hours, they want you to take your PTO, and offering liberal flex in, flex out opportunities that if you don't need to take your PTO, don't. If you need to work 2 hours earlier in the week to cover for 2 hours that you need to take off for any kind of appointment, we're going to work with you on that, and treating people like they are professionals and that they don't necessarily need to be babysat. But it also goes into making good hiring decisions as well. You have to have the right people that are going to do the job that you can trust and that are not going to take advantage of the system. And sometimes that's hard to do. Even being able to offer reimbursement programs for gym memberships if they aren't lucky enough to build a gym membership for their employees, having up to $50 a month that they can reimburse to them for even having a gym membership for mind, body, spirit being, whole. So those are
Man,
some
I
things
love that, right? Mind, body, spirit, right? Because I think that's so important, like the work-life balance. I feel, right, and Lynette, I want you to probably touch on this a little bit, is the remote work, right? Is work from home. How many people out there, right, when you're working at your kitchen table, your home is now your office? How can they, because I think this goes into the culture aspect, is if you're working remote, how do you make your home that's now your office your home? How do you separate when you shut off your laptop?
Well, separation, I mean, depending on the scope of your position, but how do you make your home your office? And it really comes down to discipline, having a constructive workspace, getting dressed in the morning, showing up for work for yourself at your place of business, which is now in your home somewhere strategically, that you can successfully operate and produce what you're supposed to produce. But I also think it goes deeper. I mean, I think there's some responsibility with the employers too. I mean, companies are big into health and wellness and mindfulness now. So keeping employee engagement is a big part of that. And so, revisiting the culture or the mission statement of the organization, working that into your weekly routine to keep employee engagement up, really helps foster that type of environment, whether you're in the office or you're in your home office. And I think that's one of the most important things for employers to do to keep their employees engaged, not just throwing incentives at them. Not everything is financial, but there has to be something in addition to the financial incentives or those PTO incentives to keep employee engagement going and steady.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this, where you touched on, right, that employee engagement is keeping them up front. And I'll say, I've not always been the best at that. Jamie, Zach, and John will tell you here, there's a lot of times in the middle of the night, my mind is up. I'm up in the middle of the night and I'm thinking, and I'll have an idea, I'll have something, and guess what? I send text messages. I wake up early in the morning and I'm sending text messages. And there might be text messages at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning to these people. I know I'm not the best at it, right? But I'll have an idea. And I'm like, okay, no more texting them, write it down, and then I'll go in the morning, because they know I'm up probably a little bit earlier than them, and I'm going to do that. And I had to stop. I used to be really, really bad about it, but keeping them so it's not, hey, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you're getting a text message from your boss or or that. And I'm not saying me as a boss, but anybody, it's not a good thing. Right. And it's there, but getting them involved. Latrice, you guys do some phenomenal things there at Digital Resource for culture. What are some of the things that you guys do to really build that culture to keep people wanting to be there?
So, as you know, everyone wants to be remote or hybrid, and that has been a challenge to keep the culture fun and engaging. So we've started an initiative where once a month we do something fun with the entire team, whether it's most of the team will come in for that day, and we'll do something completely unrelated to the things we do professionally, and we just come together and enjoy. Cutting those times, making those times for our teams to see each other, to see management, to be themselves in the workplace is something that we've really been pushing for. Again, I mean, I don't know if anyone knows much about us, but we try to do all kinds of little things, such as you have the opportunity to win prizes every week. Whether you're in office or virtual, we're always trying to find something maybe small or even grand that our teammates will truly appreciate and want, so they want to stay here. Because again, like we were talking about earlier, we can't always shovel out the money, but we can definitely create a culture of everyone being a part and engaging and feel welcomed. And so that's something that we've definitely been trying to focus on even more. Yeah, I'm constantly, again, like you, I'm constantly writing down things of what we can do and how to improve to really empower and engage our teammates. We also do a lot of polling. So via Slack, we'll send something to our teammates to see, okay, well, would you enjoy this activity? What is this something that you would like? Maybe it's something that they can do on their own, but just some way to constantly keep them engaged and involved in the things we do.
Okay. Did you guys still write on the walls?
Yes, we do. Oh my
Still
God.
write on the walls?
If I could turn my computer, you will definitely see all the right.
Yeah, the reason I first knew you guys wrote on the walls is I actually looked at your old office space that was a block over from where that was at. So I looked at that and they had all the writings on the wall and stuff like that. And I was like, this looks like a fun place to work. So interesting. But you touched on something that I really want to touch on. And Robbie, I'm going to throw this one out to you first. What are you seeing from your clients out there in person, coming into the office or wherever, remote or hybrid? What are you seeing the most of?
That they want, definitely a mixture. If they want work from home, they want some kind of hybrid model. That's just the way it's trending. If it can be possible, they want it to be possible, and that's one of the first things they're gonna ask the companies about. Can I do this from home? And if not, I need a reason why not. So employers should be ready to give that answer. You need justification.
Okay. Larissa, Lynette, what are you guys seeing out there from let's talk about it from an organization side. What are you seeing from them that they want to do for their candidates?
Well, from our perspective, well, first of all of our recruiters personally at our company are completely remote, and we'll just bring them in and have lunches and dinners and whatnot to keep everybody engaged. And we have a chat line for us specifically, but for our clients, one thing that we've had to do over the last year or so, obviously the first year of COVID, everybody was remote. The second year of COVID, everybody was like, okay, time to come back to the office. And it's like, whoa. Hang on a second. It doesn't work that way. We don't just turn a page and we're back. So we've had a lot of companies who have said that they wanted people on site. That's all they want. And we're like, it's not possible for us to say, everybody has to come back to work. So you have to be open for a hybrid or remote model. And so it took, especially with one of our larger companies, it's a $100 million public accounting firm, that they wanted everybody to be on site and in the most remote location that you could possibly imagine. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to relocate this person. Nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to be on site. You have to be open. And so we've had to really help to discuss and educate our clients on, if you want to have people on site, maybe you're going to do some travel, so some hybrid, but a lot of people are going to be going to remote working, and you have to be open to that in order to get the people that you want, the quality.
Absolutely. Before Lynette, you touch on that, is I want everybody to think about 2018. In 2018, hey, I go to my boss and I say, hey, I'd like to work from home. You can't be efficient. You can't be effective. That can't work. 2019, hey, can I work from home? No, sorry, you got to come into the office. Okay, I'm going to come into my office. March. I won't even talk about what people said about virtual hiring events back in 2018 and 2019, but it was not as friendly as that, right? But March of 2020 hits, and what happens? Some of the largest, well, first of all, everybody had to go. But what happened during that time from 2020 to 2021? We made it work, right? People that were at home, that had kids, right? Single parents that had kids that were in school, that virtual school, not going to say it was good for my kids at all, but you had kids and then you had your parents working, right? Some single, some together, but dad in one room, mom in the other room, kid on school, and you have to listen to it. You made it work. I had to go buy a little speaker. My 7-year-old, who at the time was 6, in kindergarten, he wouldn't talk to the teacher. He didn't want to sit there. So my wife had to buy a speaker so she could hear what the teacher was saying. So when they called his name, he just didn't sit there and look and go, right? He had to talk. So we had to, right? You had to adapt. And I think what COVID did is it showed working at home can be effective, can be efficient, right? But you have to adapt. And I think it taught the world adaptation is key, right? And people are going to want to work remote. I mean, how many people went out there and said, I'm just going to travel, right? Got in RVs and traveled and worked. One of my mentors right now today, he lives in an RV and he just travels the country and he does his work from there. And you see a lot more of that now. So Lynette, what are you seeing from your clients out there? More remote, in-person, or hybrid?
So we're seeing a pretty good mixture. I mean, we're here in the office and our entire recruiting team is here in Palm Beach County. And so we enjoy an office. I will tell you, I've met some people and I think that there's an age difference too. And sometimes it's not polite to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. So people that are older are used to going to a place of business. They enjoy that. We're seeing a good comeback. We're seeing people who are re-entering the workplace after retirement. They want to go to a place of work. They want that camaraderie, that environment that they've always enjoyed. The younger people are really looking for the remote opportunities. And while maybe that's impolite to say, that's fact. And so I think you're seeing a difference with different people, different ages, but also remember you're manufacturing. We had, I think Cheryl said something, one of the defense companies, you've got a lot of manufacturing here in South Florida, more that's coming. I mean, Amazon is almost in every county now. So those jobs are never going to be remote. And so just keeping up with the pace and educating candidates to encourage all different types of situations and explore different opportunities to keep their minds open is really, we feel, is part of our job as well.
Absolutely right. You touched on it there is educating the candidates, right? I saw it in here. Audrey just said it. She hires bus drivers. If a candidate wants remote work, guess what? Being a bus driver is probably not the right fit, right? So you kind of have to look at what they want and then maybe kind of go up. But I think a lot of times too is, and I've seen it a lot out there. We're going to talk about job boards here in a second, but people put some information on job boards, but not all the information, right? Robbie, you touched on it. You have to put a salary on there now, or people are just going to pass. Commission work, I don't deal with that as much, but I grew up in my sales career and I was always commission only. I always said I want to be, right? Because the more I worked, the more I made, the better it was. But now it's not as much, right? There's not as many people that are, right? The commission only isn't as much out there. But talking about performance management, Latrice, what do you guys do for a performance management side of things? Is there anything that you use, any outside companies, or what do you do on a daily basis to manage that?
Oh, yes. So we currently use a program called Get Speedback, and it's pretty much it's a small company. So we get to add what we want and make changes to and make it reflect the things that we want to know from our team. But that's our main source of what we use for performance management. Um, it's kind of like a survey. It goes out to each team member and different at different levels and how they interact with each other, and how get their viewpoint on others' performance. It has been a game changer for us. It has been an amazing tool. Um, we have more in-depth reviews, and we do reviews whenever the teammate wants it. So it's definitely been allowing us to get a better a grasp on in general reviews and constant reviews of our team members. So I definitely think that getting a good tool like Gets Feedback is definitely of service to any company.
Matthew's built a great platform over there, you know. So
Yes.
I know Matthew, the owner of that. So right, and it's something where, and you know, I'll say it a lot, and kind of on a off subject is sometimes when you look at a company like a Gets Feedback, is they have a program that not a lot of people are doing. It's a smaller company, right? It was a tech startup, but it's able to help your organization. And a lot of times what we see with recruiters out there, and you know, I really saw this in 2018 when I switched from putting on in-person job fairs to say, hey, I'm going to go and do virtual job fairs. People are like, you're nuts. Like, that's never going to work. Virtual job fairs, how does it work? And I said, listen, Amazon. I go, think of Amazon. Amazon in 2018, what did they say? We want to hire 10,000 people in a week, right? 2019, we're going to hire 30,000 people. 2021, hire 100,000 people. And to this day, right, Amazon's all over the news when they want to hire. Now, like you said, Lynette, they're in every county that's out there. But Amazon can come out and say, we want to have a national hiring day. Woo, that makes the news. But guess what? Every company can do that today, right? And that's what I said in 2018 when I told people, hey, you could do a national hiring event for your company. And I'm like, how do we do that? We can't do that. Well, now virtual kind of showed the world that you can. But the reason I bring that up is because of a Gets Feedback is sometimes organizations will look at a company and say, you're a small company, you're something new. How does it help us? As a recruiter, as an HR, as a workforce development board, don't be scared to look at some of the platforms that are out there that can help you, right? From a recruiting side point, from a culture standpoint, you know, where you can find out, right? Think about if I'm here, right? And I'll say my team members here that are on the call, right? John, Zach, and Jamie. You know, one's in business development, one's in enterprise sales, and one runs our marketing team. So we have 3 different people. If I really want to do a poll to find out, hey, how is it to work with these people? And all of a sudden you find out that, hey, one of these people is really a challenge to work with. Well, now I can go in and try to have a conversation with that person, right? And you can have it because, you know, it's more of an anonymous thing and find out what some of the challenges are. So don't be scared to use tools that are out there, especially if, right, a lot of times it's new because somebody had an idea. And that idea came because they were having a challenge, right? Is some of the problems that we're having out there. You know, so we're getting a couple of questions in here and I want to go through some of these. You know, one of the questions, this is Regina asked, and let's see, whoever wants to take this one can, because I think a lot of you have in person, but the question was, when recruiting for a team that all works remotely, how do you make sure of a great cultural fit of that candidate?
Personally, when we're going and recruiting for different candidates and it's 100% remote, we usually do a screening on if they've ever done 100% remote other than just in COVID. And if they did do 100% remote, how did they fare? What would people say about them? How did they balance their work life? How did they feel they were in their productiveness, because some people are like, I really enjoyed being at home, but man, I couldn't ever turn off the computer, which, by the way, all of us up here on this panel have been in recruiting or are in recruiting, and we know that that clock doesn't stop at 5 p.m. So let's be honest here. We know it.
Right.
So we're not going to hide that one, but there's no work-life balance in recruiting. And, but anyway, just making sure that we're asking those people. I mean, I tell that to my recruiters, like, hey, by the way, just be clear, this is not a 9-to-5 job. So anyway, but for those people who are working remotely, that's what I have to ask them is like, why do you want remote? What are you looking for? Have you done it? How did you feel you did with it? What would your peers say about it? What would your manager say about it? How did you do this? And how were you able to balance that? And how were you able to keep connected with your teammates? What were there meetings? Were there chat boards? What did you guys do? And try to make sure that it was going to be a good fit for them that way. That's what we do.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump on that?
I'll just add something, Steve. One, I want to say thanks because I've participated in the Premier Virtual. You've hosted a few different online events, and one, I was able to speak with 88 candidates in a matter of hours. So tried, trusted, and true. Thank you. That was very rewarding experience, and CareerSource was on that as well, Robbie. So that was nice. But as far as what we're talking about, do an assessment. I mean, you can do personality, behavior assessments. There's different tools available. Because you might be getting lip service from a candidate. Let's face it. Sometimes candidates tell us things we want to hear, and sometimes we know it, sometimes we don't. But there are a variety of assessments out there that will not only help you decide, help an employer decide, but also maybe help steer or navigate the candidate's needs and desires as well.
Nice. Just look at their social media. See what they do. We won't get into that one like last time, but right, Larissa, we talked about that a little bit earlier, right? So for everybody who's here last time, we had the question posted was, when you're recruiting a candidate, is it acceptable to look at their social media? So that's it's a very interesting question, right? We won't get onto that today, but if anybody does want to get into that question that's here as an attendee, and you want to kind of go over that, shoot me an email. I'd love to be able to talk with you about that, because there's different ways to look at that, but I don't want anybody to get in trouble with anything out there. So go out there again. I think, right, what you can do on somebody that's remote culturally as well is don't just have one email, or just don't have one, right? And you don't have to have an interview. Maybe have a Zoom after hours and just be casual. Just talk to them. Find out, are they going to fit, right? If you have, like we do, every couple of weeks, we have a happy hour on Zoom, right? For all of our team, and most of our teams here in South Florida, but we still have a Zoom happy hour, right? So we can kind of get to know each other and stuff like that. I think you can start that, as well too, right on that recruiting process. If that is the challenge, to see if they're going to fit with you on a remote position, maybe I'm coming to the office one day too, right? Get them on there. Another question that we have out there is, what are the differences or challenges in junior level and executive level recruiting? Lynette, you want to jump on that one first?
So some of the challenges would be underqualified versus overqualified. And we're seeing a good mixture of overqualified candidates, maybe looking to back off of some responsibility that they've had in the past and wanting to do something a little less, I don't want to say responsible, but at a different pace, I guess, or a different title in the organization. And so not looking past those people and really taking a minute to learn about what their desires are. So maybe they are qualified, but maybe they're not looking for $1 million. Maybe they want to slow down their lifestyle or their work style. Maybe they're willing to accept less. Maybe they just want to, as they egress into closer to retirement, maybe they want to lessen their responsibility. And so that's always helpful. And just being able to listen to the candidate and find out what they need instead of just looking at their resume, formulating an opinion and deciding that they're qualified or not qualified and moving on to the next one. So I think it's important to do that.
Okay, great. Robbie, and I talk to to you a lot with on the workforce development side, but we talk with a lot of clients across the country. And they're like, oh, well, workforce are great, but it's great for only this type of position. And I said, that's wrong, right? You have so many, like workforce can get you different types of positions as well. Can you say the difference that you see from the recruiting junior to executive level?
Yes, definitely. Junior level positions, they definitely their market obviously maybe a little bit more limited as far as their negotiation room, as far as their options of being able to get that remote work compared to more executive levels. And you absolutely hit the head where, we have this stigma. The workforces have this stigma where we're only, getting those $10, $11 an hour positions. And while we do get a lot of those, keep in mind, a lot of the workforces are dealing with unemployment. They're dealing with some kind of impactful community outreach programs, or they have workshops in-house where they attract professional C-suite executives or upper-level senior management executives to their offices. So your exposure to your job order is there. The potential is there. You just have to tap into it at your workforce agency. And chances are they have a wide range. If they have a recruiting service, they have a wide range of recruiters under them in those departments. So it'd be to your advantage to take advantage of that.
All right, perfect. Next question, and this is one that's always right. I don't want to say this is a political question, that kind of where people have very stern thoughts, but right, this is in the news. So the question was, have we been seeing changes in the demand for hybrid work as the pandemic progresses? We got that. Now, the question is, what about with the vaccine mandates and the employer requirements? Are we seeing, right, more of your organizations that you're going, are they asking to say they have to be vaccinated to come back to work? Or are they kind of leaving that open? Anybody want to touch on that?
I personally here for Palm Beach County, the job orders that we've gotten, I haven't seen any so far that have mandated vaccine. That's just for us.
I'm here.
Yeah,
Well,
we
yeah,
haven't seen anything else over here as well. And I mean, we're out of our base is in South Texas. So, but of course, nationally, with any of the locations of any of the national companies that we're working with, we have not seen anything. We've had the scare of it, that we could be mandating, and we've had people saying that they're either going to quit or they can go 1099 or something like that. So they're not, W-2 employee. We've had a lot of different discussions about it from different candidates and different employers, but we haven't seen anything that's really inhibited us at this point. Not yet.
Okay.
Hopefully not ever.
I'm gonna keep on this, right? Because I like to push the envelope a little bit. But have you been seeing, Larissa, right? Have you had candidates, right? Because we're not saying names here. Have you had candidates that come up and say, I will only work at a company that's vaccine mandatory or not mandatory? Have you had have you seen that at all out there?
Nope. The only thing that we actually have not seen anybody be that strong-headed about anything like that, which is actually kind of shocking when you think about it and you bring it up in the manner that you just did, as a matter of fact. But when we've had some companies say that, well, if this becomes an issue, we need to make sure that these people are vaccinated or what have you. So the only thing that we do is we just simply introduce it that I don't know if you were vaccinated or not. But as things come about, if you were to be vaccinated, or if you be required to be vaccinated, will you have any issue with that? And typically, actually, a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm vaccinated. Don't worry about it. I don't care. That's fine. Or, something like that. But nobody's had any kind of strong foot against it. Usually it's just even with having the employees market and making their own decisions and those things, they're being more like, I want to work remote. I haven't had anything else.
Okay. And I know, again, that's a thing. I saw you kind of shaking your head. Same thing. You're not really seeing that out there where candidates are saying, I'll only work for a company that's one way or the other.
No, not candidates. But we do have a few companies on our books that are requiring that. A lot of them are research-based or healthcare-based. And that really is the limit there. Not too many companies. I mean, once the Supreme Court decided that the vax or test was going to go away. I did a compliance overview with our SHRM group recently to give them an update, and we're not expected to see that. I talked to some of our legislators here in South Florida. We're not expected to see that come back on into the legislature anytime soon. So I think as the numbers dwindle, which it looks like they will, hopefully we'll see some of this go away and people be more amenable to different situations. But there are some employers, make no mistake, there are some employers that are requiring it. And unfortunately, we do have to ask, and it's just a quick question. So.
Gotcha. I was on the phone last week with a peer of mine, and she was telling me she had a client. The business partner one, and we'll call business partner two. She would get an email from business partner one that says, we want to make sure you have to tell everybody they have to be vaccinated. Right after that, she'd get an email from business partner two to say, make sure you tell people we want people that are not vaccinated. And she had she's like, I would know if I had one email, right? Something that come out from the government, I'd get an email from this one. And the business partners were on such a different page that it was just, she said it was kind of comical on what was happening out there on here. So
I'll one up you
right.
on that one. One of our public accounting firms, they have about, I think they've got about 4,000 employees now, and they have like a weekly meeting with their groups. And one of the partners of the company went on this phone call and straight up told everybody, if you don't get vaccinated, you'll be fired. Prior to this actually being implemented, which never was implemented. So then anybody I placed with this company called me, a couple people were crying, they didn't know what was happening. And so then we had to send that up to HR and the director. It was bad. And my daughter-in-law, to be in South Florida, she had gotten a new job at an accounting firm in Palm Beach. And they went on for her first day, and she just is, I mean, she's 21 years old. She's got her bachelor's, master's. She just got her CPA. I mean, she's a go-getter. She's amazing. Went to go start her first day, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, you have to be vaccinated. And so then she had to make this decision on the fly. She's like, okay. So it was like, that's one thing that we've had to really be square with any of our clients is, are you requiring that? So anyway.
I think it's better to be upfront so that people know than kind of waiting till that last minute so they don't have to make this. You know, this is one of the last questions that I want to take in here because we're getting time. Man, this is good today. We had some good conversations in here, but this is something that I see as a huge issue out there. But I have a story to tell about it first, right? To get into it. This morning, I get a call from a friend of mine that I was in the Army with. And he said, hey, can I use you as a reference? I said, absolutely. He's been in negotiations. He's been through 5 rounds of interviews with this company. This is since the beginning of December. They wanted to have it by January. January 1st is what they originally told him. It's now the end of February and they haven't hired him. Now, you may say, oh my gosh, that must be a really high level position. It's a sales position. So, last question, right? And this is a question that kind of leads. What talking points do you have for speaking with hiring managers about the importance of the speed of hiring? Latrice, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. Let's start with you on this one.
It is imperative. It was always been an important thing in the past, but now even more, because if you do not ask the questions you need to ask up front, get the information you need to get up front from the candidate, you may never even hear from them again, or they may get an additional offer between the time that you spoke to them and 30 minutes later. It's so many reasons why you have to move quickly. There's so many reasons why you need to ask as many questions, get to know the applicant and the candidates as well as you can the first meeting, to limit the amount of times and amount of rounds of interviewing you have to do. There's no way around it. Feel very strongly about it. It should never take that many or even that long.
All right. Larissa, what about you?
Definitely, same viewpoint completely. Some of the public accounting firms and some of the larger firms that we work with as well, they would take 3 and 4 rounds to make even for an associate level position to go in, and it's like, no, you can't do that anymore. You have to be willing to buy or go to another candidate. You can't take your time because there's too many people that are already knocking on the doors. I mean, we have people with our recruiters who are knocking on their doors saying, just like Latrice was saying earlier, maybe we can't always like give the most money to everybody. It's not always money based, but you have to be able to keep those people engaged. And one of those ways of doing it is like showing these people that you are engaged with them and you've got buy-in with them, and you're going to make the decision for them and make it faster and make them feel like they are desired, wanted, and needed.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that. Lynette, what we're gonna kind of wrap it up here with Lynette and Robbie. What's one last thing that you want to kind of tell all the candidates? It could be on that question or anything else that you want to attend all these people that spent an hour listening to such a great group of panelists today.
So what I would just leave them with is make sure that your resume says exactly what you mean it to say. So many times we look through resumes and then we interview a candidate and they have so many more skills than what's actually on paper. And so be sure that you put your hobbies, put your skills, make sure you're reviewing it, constantly updating it. If you're spending your free time to upskill and learn something new, whether it be a software program or whatever it is, put that on your resume. That could be attractive, and you don't want anything to potentially be missed that might preclude you from getting the position that you want. Take the time to invest in yourself, upskill, keep a clean, great, updated resume, and show up and respond. Be responsive.
And spell check your resume.
It's Grammarly, right? All
Make
right,
sure
Robbie,
it's aligned.
Robbie, what's one last thing that you want to send out to everybody?
For my employers, if you can pay that extra dollar, pay it. If you can be flexible, 3 days in the office, 2 days out of the office, 4 days in the office, 1 day out of the office, whatever it is, offer it. Getting a candidate right now is like getting a house. If you find one that's close enough, get it.
All right, perfect. Love it. Latrice, any last words?
No, I say try to reflect your personality in all that you do, whether it's just if you think it's the initial screening conversation, the actual Zoom, your resume, get you out there because you're the one who's going to sell your company or the recruiter on you, on someone wants to take a chance on you, whether you have the most experience or the least amount. You have to get your personality to shine through because then the people will fight for you more.
All right, perfect. Larissa, last thing from you.
I just think that everything that everybody has said is very much on point. And one thing that Latrice had said was that you need to make sure to advertise yourself. I mean, if you're not going to advertise yourself, somebody else isn't going to. So you have to make sure you are completely complete with your resume, making sure that there isn't anything left off, making sure that you're putting your best foot forward and, just being there, being present, being communicative. Don't ghost. Show up to the interview. Make sure you're answering all the questions, and then, the employers also need to work with the environment that we're in and not pretend like it's not there. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. I got one question that came in here twice, so I'm just going to throw this out there because it seems like a very important question out there. What advice do you have when you're recruiting for positions for the sectors that are hit hardest, like hospitality, retail, or food service? What's one thing that each one of you could say what you do to help with that?
That's a hard one. We used to do that. I have, honestly, I'll just jump out there. I have probably about 30 different contracts with like multiple different hospitality units, IHG, the Marriott's, everything in the DFW area. And we could not get anybody to go to work. Couldn't get anybody. So that being said, that's a really tough one. We had a lot of people working on it. We had people increasing pay by double. We had people giving like cash cards. Ubering their clients in there, providing different lunches. I mean, we had a lot of stuff that was happening there, and straight up, I mean, honestly, we don't have any hospitality anymore in our book of business, and we still have the contracts there.
Robbie, you want to touch on that?
From the workforce side, those industries have always been a very slow burn. And so our practice has always been to try and educate, provide as much statistics and labor market information as we can to try and get those wages and benefits up to their competitors. And even if and when they do, it's like Larissa said, the candidates get burnt out. It's just one of those industries where that's always going to be an issue. You know, customers are rude, or you've been doing this for 50, 60, 70 hours a week and they're tired and they just don't want to return. So I don't know what the solution is. I'm praying someone discovers it soon.
Well, like Robbie has said earlier in the conversation, he said you're getting people that'll apply. They won't come to the initial interview, or they get set up with the interview. They don't show up. They show up, they get the offer. They turn down the offer. They show up for the first day. They're out by lunch. They're going to the parking lot. I mean, it's just been this cycle that I don't have any kind of solution. But if you're feeling any of this, I mean, it was something that we felt the pain of a lot. And I mean, we did everything with also educating the employers. We've had plenty of these conference calls and telling them, you know, here's what the market is. It was like, well, you had to go from $8 to $10, $10 to $12, $12 to $14. Now you're at 18, now you're at 20, and you still cannot get these people to go to work. And it's unfortunate because there is no, like Robbie had said, if somebody finds a solution, by all means, I have plenty of clients that could use our services that still have a contract with us that we haven't been able to actually help out with that in that situation. So, I mean, and you've had like engineers doing laundry and the managers doing housekeeping, and there's so many different things. Or then they would find people who work great, and then when they go to do their W-2s, they find out that they don't have legal papers, you know. So, and we're in Texas, so you know, we have the border here. We've got those. So it's been a difficulty. So if somebody finds out, let us know.
Virtual events, no. All right. Well, I appreciate Lynette, Larissa, Latrice, Robbie. Thank you for your time today. You know, we got a lot of things that people really enjoyed to say. Everybody's going to get a webinar out there. We ran a little over time, so I'm not going to do any little event on Premier Virtual of how that works. But if anybody wants the information, I put my calendar link in there. If they want to sit down with myself or one of my team members and find out a little bit more, or if you want to speak with any of these phenomenal panelists afterwards, shoot me an email. We can get you in contact with them if you have any other information that you'd like to speak directly with them, questions or anything like that. So again, thank you everybody for your time today. And we look forward to next month's webinar. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, Steve. See you.
Thanks for having us.